thing on? Apparently I'm a glutton for punishment because not only do I have a propane company, a garbage company, and a ton of real estate, but I recently decided to open a scrapyard. I know what you're thinking. I probably knew a whole bunch about scrapping and how the scrap metal business worked, and so I thought I would rely on this knowledge to carry me in this new venture. But in that assumption, you would actually be wrong. 6 months ago, I didn't know anything about the scrap metal business other than it looked like a highly profitable business that would be a good add-on to my roll-off and garbage business that I already had. I put out an ad for somebody that had a bunch of industry knowledge that could help me, and I could lean on them and rely on them to teach me the business as I made this huge investment. But months later, I got 0 applicants and 0 people that had any knowledge or interest in working for me in this new venture. Goose egg. 0. Not even 1. So, over the last 6 months, I've been doing what anybody would do. I've been Googling things, I've been watching a ton of YouTube videos, I've been talking to anybody that would talk to me that had any knowledge about the scrap metal business, and I have come a long way. I would say at this point I actually feel pretty confident that I can grade different sorts of metals, and as things come in, I can do what I'm supposed to do to run the business and then grow my own people. So later I don't have to look for people with experience, I can grow my own. So I knew I would make some mistakes, and my hope has been that when I make a mistake, I can minimize those losses, and when I do something right, I can maximize those gains, and that this will turn out to be a huge success. So right now my scrapyard is actually not even open to the public, but people talk, and every day 1 or 2 people comes in with some sort of scrap that they want to sell. As a side note, that's pretty cool. I mean, as a business owner, when you're doing a startup, what you want is the opportunity to be so good that even before you're open, people are calling and coming by in anticipation of a much needed business. Anyway, I had a guy come in and he had 3,000 pounds of copper wire. So of all the things that scare me on this little journey, is the one thing is grading copper wire. I look at copper wire and like, it all looks kind of the same to me, you know, like it's hard to tell what percentage is copper and what percentage is casing, but I'm getting better. It's gonna take some time and it's gonna take some experience. But when I looked at this guy's copper wire, it had a big thick piece of copper in the middle and then just what looked like a casing on the outside. So it looked pretty good to me. The guy told me that he had sold some previously to a different scrapyard for about 60 cents a pound. I didn't know what to think of that because when I looked at it, I thought it would be worth more than that because the copper in there was so thick. But I said, I'm gonna pay him a little bit better price than what he got before, so hopefully he'll bring me other stuff in the future. So I paid him 75 cents a pound for the wire. $2,250 later, I own 3,000 pounds of copper wire. After the guy left, I took a closer look at the wire, and it actually had a lead casing as well as a PVC casing around the copper. So now I was really confused. This is completely my fault. I was much more worried about the customer's experience with my business than inspecting the wire and grading it correctly. Hopefully, I don't do this again in the future. So I called a couple of the markets that I sell to, and they knew exactly what this is. This wire is actually called Red-A-Wire. This is when it's a big thick piece of copper, and then a layer of PVC, and then a layer of lead, and then sometimes a cloth casing around that. They told me that this wire was worth about 80 cents a pound, my price. Now keep in mind, I get like a commercial price for my products because I'm bringing much more. If you went to the same market I go to, you wouldn't get the same price I do. It's preferred pricing. So when they told me 80 cents, it was gonna be a loss. I mean, making 5 cents on that is $150. Well, by the time I transport it and I figure in my overhead and handling of this, I was gonna lose a couple $100 on it. So what I decided to do is sleep on it and see if I could come up with a solution. The next morning I had an epiphany. I own a wire stripper, and there's that big, fat, juicy piece of copper in the middle. So I decided to do a little experiment. I stripped 142 pounds of the red wire, and then I weighed each piece after it was stripped. In the end, I had 11 pounds of PVC encasing, I had 56 pounds of copper, and I had 75 pounds of lead. So that's gonna give me about $219 for the copper, $52 for the lead, and then I can recycle the PVC and cloth. So when I do that, there's really no disposal cost. I also have a 15-year-old son that's gonna work for me this summer, and I pay him $9 an hour, so it's cheap labor to strip 3,000 pounds of wire. It took him 3 hours to strip the 142 pounds of wire. And if you extrapolate that out, that would be 63 hours to strip the total 3,000 pounds. However, we learned a lot about efficiencies, and I think we could get that number down substantially. But even if it did take him 63 hours to strip all of the wire, that would cost me $567 to strip it all. So that 3,000 pounds of red wire would be about $4,620 worth of copper, $1,050 worth of lead, and if I take out the $567 that it cost me to strip it, plus the $2,250 that I paid for the wire, I have a potential to net $2,853. So about half of the wire has this steel casing around it. That could slightly change my numbers. It could take me longer to strip that particular half of wire, and it could also skew the weight I did a little bit, because that would end up in my steel pile, which I could still sell it, but it's not super profitable. So all in all, these numbers aren't exact. However, instead of losing a couple of $100, I could make $2,500 to $3,000 on this wire. So what I'm thinking about now is just stripping the half that doesn't have the steel casing on it, seeing how that goes, selling that, and then kind of reevaluating. If I just did that and I made $1,000 to $1,500 on that, I'd be really satisfied with that. It would make me feel redeemed, and I would be like, okay, I fixed my mistake. At any rate, what this video is about, and what I hope you take away from this, is I have learned a lot in 6 months, and I'm gonna make some mistakes. However, I'm continually learning and trying to get better, and as a business owner, that's what we want to do. We want to make less mistakes and do more things right. If you do make a mistake, only make it once, right? Guys, I hope you like these videos. I'm gonna put a couple of other videos up right here about scrapping, and I'll see you soon in the next one.